chipping. So it should be pretty easy, right? You just got to get the ball onto the green, let it roll out, and hopefully it ends up by the flag. But we all know it's not that easy, and it can give lots of golfers lots of issues out on the golf course. But in this video, we're going to show you the do's and the don'ts of chipping. Welcome back to the Forest of Arden. You've joined me here just at the back of the 13th green where we're talking about chipping, and I'm going to show you the things that you need to do and the things that you need to make sure you don't do when you're chipping to give yourself better results, and hopefully you're going to get up and down a little bit more often. Just before that, please make sure, if you do like this video, please make sure you hit that subscribe button before you leave. There is a link in the description box down below, or there's a clickable link at the end of the video. So we're going to cover 5 things here which are really going to help you when you're around the green. And for the purpose of this video, talking about chipping, we're talking about the shots where you're pretty close to the green, so you may be within 3 or 4 paces of the green. So let's start with the first thing that we need to make sure that we do and we avoid when we're chipping. So yes, we need to make sure that we don't stand too far away from the golf ball, and we do make sure we stand much closer. So if I was going to take this 56-degree wedge and hit a full shot, that for me would be around about 110 yards. I'd probably be standing this far from the golf ball. But when I'm chipping, I want to be standing much closer to the golf ball. And that's the first real point here. Why is that important? Well, firstly, the further I stand away, the more the golf club wants to arc inwards and open, and then back inwards and closed. When I stand a little bit closer, the arc is reduced, and yes, the club face is opening and closing, and it's working inwards and inwards, but it's far less. And so what that does, it means that it's easier to control the direction that we're looking to hit these golf balls on. And obviously when we've got a target such as the flag, it's really important that we control that direction. The other thing it tends to do as well, when we stand a little bit closer, is it tends to create a little bit more of an upward movement to the golf club in the backswing. When we tend to stand further away, the golf club tends to work on a flatter arc, and the club doesn't work as much up away from the ground. So it's harder when we stand further away to create a good approach angle into the golf ball. So the first thing that you need to do is avoid standing too far from the golf ball, and make sure that when you're chipping, you're standing much closer to the golf ball, and that's going to help you with your control of attack angle and also the direction. So number 2, we want to make sure that we don't use the wrists to get the ball to the flag, but instead we use a mini pivot of the body. So because we're really trying to cover a very short distance here, I can absolutely make that ball travel the correct distance just through using my wrists, my hands, probably a little bit of forearms as well. So we can demonstrate that here. We can make the ball go that far, but exactly what you see has happened there. The contact was very poor. You'll notice the tempo was pretty quick. It wasn't particularly smooth. And obviously very clearly the result there was very poor. So we need to make sure that we're not using the wrists and the arms to make the stroke. Instead, even though we're only trying to cover a short distance here, we are still trying to use a mini pivot of the body. So you'll notice as I move the club back, my chest rotates away. As my chest rotates away, my hips, my knees follow. And then as I go through, again, there's a little pivot. Notice my trail heel has begun to just leave the ground. My body's starting to face the target, and the golf club has moved back and through based on what my pivot is doing rather than what my hands and my arms are doing. If we use hands and arms, you can get the ball close, absolutely, but it's harder to control trajectory, it's harder to control strike, it's harder to control direction, distance, all of those things that we really need to master when we're looking to chip that ball close. So the number 2 thing that you don't want to do is use lots of wrists and arms. Instead, you want to be using a nice little pivot of the body, back and through, a bit more consistent. Definitely going to help you chip those balls a little bit closer. Number 3, we don't want to be helping the ball into the air. Not so much of an issue on this shot, but if you need some elevation, make sure that you trust the golf club that you've got in your hands, and you're using your setup and your weight distribution in order to do that. What we do want to do is actually set a little bit of weight on that lead side, so that's my left side. Want to have a little bit of forward lean of the golf club and feel like the buttons on my shirt are target side of the golf ball. We need the low point of your golf swing to be in front of that golf ball. If I'm in a situation where I need some elevation, some lift, I'm going to take a lofty club, that's first of all, but we don't want to get that weight on that back leg and feel like that's the reason that we're going to get some elevation. All that's going to do is going to move the lowest part of your swing back behind the ball. Generally behind the ball there's lots of grass, there's lots of debris. We're going to get that caught between the club and the ball. We're probably going to hit the ground early. The result is not going to be good. And instead we need to be making sure that we're setting ourselves up in such a way that we're helping the golf club's descent into the ball. We're controlling where that lowest part is, and that's really the only way that we're going to guarantee the strike. If you need some elevation, choose the most lofty club. If you feel you need to open the face, let's do that, but don't put the weight back and lift the ball into the air. That's a sure way to strike it poorly, and obviously you're not going to get the elevation and you're not going to get the desired result. So weight goes on the left, sternum in front of the golf ball. If I need a little bit more elevation, I can open the club, and this ball will not reach that flag because it was a popped up shot with a little bit more elevation. That's the way I play that. Do not lean onto that back foot. That is an absolute killer for the chipping. Number 4, don't stick with the same golf club when you're chipping around the green. You have got a bag full of tools there that we really want to make use of, so make sure you're varying the club when you chip. Now, I'm a big advocate of using one club around the greens, but that's really more for what I call the scrambling shots, that kind of 20 to 40 yard shots where you've maybe got a mound to go over, a bunker to go over, a longer distance to carry. When we're chipping, like we said, we're talking about 3 to 4 paces from the green. It makes a lot more sense to use a variety of clubs. Now, I wouldn't be using all of those clubs for sure, but I'd be using maybe a variety of clubs depending on what the situation is. So obviously this one here, I've got my 56 degree club, and I could easily land this on the green and stop it considerably short of that flag based on the club that I'm using. If I was then to select a different club, and I've got a 9-iron here, obviously we've got a much lower lofty club. If I was to try and land the ball in roughly the same spot, so just a couple of paces, a couple of yards I should say, away from me, we get a completely different result, and that ball's actually probably going to roll much past that flag. So using a variety of clubs can really help you get that ball towards different parts of the green based on a landing zone which is very, very similar. So think about where you want the ball to land, which is generally just on the green, and then what club in your bag will give that ball enough roll to make it towards the flag. So we're kind of changing the golf club to make the ball roll out different distances. Your setup, your technique, and your landing zone can stay the same. So for scrambling around the greens, I do like to use one club. For chip shots, when you're 1 to 2, 3 paces away from the green, vary the clubs. That's really going to help you, especially if you're a new or beginner golfer. The more accomplished golfers who've got a lot more skill, potentially they can use one club. But for the majority of you watching this video, teen handicaps and above, varying the club at this stage is going to help you. And number 5, the do's and don'ts of chipping is don't just walk into this ball and hit your shot onto the green. Lots of things that we need to do before we actually execute the shot. One of them is actually find out what is the grass like where your ball is sat. So the first thing I'm going to do when I get to my golf ball is I'm going to grab a club out of my bag and have some practice swings to just gauge what I feel that rough is like. Now I feel that rough is actually quite sticky. There's a little bit of moisture in it. It feels as if it's grabbing my club. That's the information I need, because that's exactly what's going to happen when I hit this shot. How many times have you walked up to your golf ball to hit a chip and just duffed it because you felt there was more resistance from the grass than you thought there was going to be? So make sure that you're having plenty of practice swings first to gauge what that grass is like, and then make sure that you have selected an area on that green where you want the ball to land before you actually go ahead and hit it. So I'm picking a spot, around about maybe 3.5 paces onto the green. And then when I'm having my practice swings, I'm gauging what that grass feels like, how much resistance is that offering to me. And as I'm doing that and I'm rotating to look at my target, I'm looking at my landing point as opposed to the flag in the distance. So all too often, what I see is a golfer gets the club out of the bag, walks up, stands in, hits the shot. There isn't a process there. The process here is going to be very different to what it would be on the tee, from the fairway, hitting 3-wood, 7-iron, whatever club it may be. So I've had my practice swings, I've gauged how much that club is going to be resisted by the grass. I walk in, I have another little look at my landing zone, and then I go ahead and hit that point. Landed it pretty much where I wanted. Should go a little bit right at the end, and that's a kick in, so I've got up and down from there. So the 5 do's and don'ts of chipping. Avoid those don'ts, focus on the things that you should do, and you will be guaranteed to get better results from here. And if you can leave yourself 1 foot putts as a tap-in, a lot less pressure on your putting, and it's a great way to keep the momentum going. Because very often we've missed the green, we need to get up and down to save par or to save a bogey, and that really keeps the round going. So chipping, not easy, but if we can employ some of those ideas next time you play, hopefully you're going to get up and down a little bit more often. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope that video was helpful to you. It gives you some practical information that you can use next time you play and help you lower your scores and enjoy your time on the course a little bit more. As I said at the start, if you're new to my channel, I'd love you to be a subscriber. Click on the link over here. 3 videos coming each and every week helping you play some better golf next time you get on the course. Thanks for watching.